Thanks for tuning into this episode of Through Jeremiah's Eyes. Today, I am joined by an amazing person and mentee of mine that has a truly bright future in this world. Today, we are going to talk about if we are truly free and how, quote unquote, free and different we would be if we were born into the wild. So, Miles, if you could introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me. This is Miles Lee. I'm currently a freshman sustainable agriculture major here at North Carolina A&T. I'm also a USDA 1890 scholar and as well as a Manners vice president coming up for this fall. So, and again, thanks for having me here, man.
Just to kick off this episode, what has been your dream profession?
My dream profession? Since I was kind of a kid, I guess I've always been involved with dirt and soil and just be outside digging and stuff. So eventually, I feel like it all was going to tie in. I kind of led astray when I was younger and I got more involved with money, and I was heavily influenced by finance and everything. But eventually everything kind of came full circle, and I kind of felt agriculture kind of be my guiding light yet again in high school. So I went ahead and applied for a scholarship. Luckily I was able to get it, and now I'm here, studying agriculture, kind of following my dream, and eventually I hope to be a soil conservation agronomist in a sense to still just tie into agriculture. I'm trying to see how agriculture ties back into all aspects of society and kind of, dispel some of the misconceptions that go along with African Americans and agriculture, slavery and different things that ensue. But eventually I want to be able to tie finance back into all of that stuff. So we'll see how everything goes.
That's dope. That's dope for real. When you think about deciding what you want to do in life, do you ever feel constricted or limited in your possibilities?
I mean, constriction happens and limitations do occur, but I tend to not limit myself. But, I always related back to my youth because when I was younger, I was always the small kid or whatever. And so I kind of just over time kind of got in a mindset where I didn't recognize my height, because I feel like once you start recognizing things about yourself, you start to begin to limit yourself in things. So therefore I started applying myself to just different things and just seeing what sticks, and that just kind of allowed for room for growth in a sense.
So just pretty much combating that.
Yeah.
That's tough. And I feel like that same exact thing. Because I truly believe everything is possible, which you guys have heard multiple times on multiple episodes of this podcast. But I truly believe that anything is possible. And every time that I think of different stuff that I want to do, as you were saying, you want to be doing stuff with soil and agriculture, but then be able to tie finance into that. So kind of integrating that, that's kind of what I do with all my different ideas. Because I want to do a whole bunch of different things, but it's all about that integration. To be able to make it all work. Because I feel like that's what makes people that makes us and individuals. So tying back into the topic of this conversation in this podcast episode, do you believe that we are more free than animals? In whatever way you want to take that.
Well, I guess it's all about how you define freedom. In a sense, freedom is, I guess, what it becomes. But in a sense, we can say that we're free. We're free, freedom of thought, freedom to kind of do what we want in a sense. But at the same time, we're still kind of constricted by society in a sense. You think about an animal kind of wakes up, hey, my first objective is, possibly, hey, I'm going to go find food, I'm going to reproduce. Yeah. In a sense, and for us, hey, we got to eat in the same sense, but also we're trained to go to school, we got to go do this and that. But in the same sense, you don't have to do that. So again, freedom is, I guess, how you make it. Because for some people, freedom is being able to wake up and do whatever they want. As we can as humans, we can do whatever we want, but also we have to deal with the consequences of our actions compared to necessarily a bird or a deer whose consequence might be death. Our consequence might be going to jail or different things like that. So I don't know. It's all about how you define freedom. Seriously.
So how do you define freedom?
Man,
what is freedom to you?
What is freedom to me? Freedom can mean several things. Yet again, being able to wake up and do whatever you do, and tying that back into, I guess, believing that anything is possible. And I think that thought process is what is freedom, because hey, I'm free to think of whatever I want to do. If I want to think of this, I can put in the work and that can become my reality. And that's freedom in a sense to me. Because I feel free right now. Yes, I'm in school. Yes, I'm in college doing the work that I need to do. That's all things that I want to do. I'm not being forced to do anything. And so that's kind of how I define freedom in a sense. Freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom just to kind of just be yourself completely.
I would say I agree. I feel like freedom in my head is, multiple definitions of freedom, but having the freedom to be able to be authentically you and not have to be worrying about what other people say, what other people think. And I feel like that's where true happiness comes in. You can be whatever financial status, you can live in whatever place, you can have whatever friends, but if you're able to be authentically you, I feel like you're able to be happy and free because you're able to, as you said, express yourself. You have that freedom of expression.
Exactly.
And then another way that I see freedom, though, is in my life. The point that I want to get to is where I have a whole bunch of different businesses that are fully self-sustaining, self-functioning, that are impacting the world on a global basis, just doing a whole bunch of different stuff and good for the world, but that I don't have to be hands-on with each of those things.
Still
They're going
like
to be
a system,
advocating.
in a sense, creating systems that kind of work for you and generate necessarily income, but also generate change in a sense. So
So then I don't actually have to work, because I feel like that's also something that would be freeing in my eyes.
But do you think you always find yourself working though? I mean, you're always gonna be working towards something, you know? Like, you know, we wake up every day, get ready to cook a meal, that's technically work. You know? Some people wake up and do that every day at a restaurant, so I don't know. Yet again, that is still work.
Yeah, and I always feel like, so that's another thing that I always juggle in my mind between, because I feel like I'm a workaholic. I'm always this, and then what's the next thing? If I get this goal, the next goal. And when I was young, I used to want to be a millionaire. That was my goal. And I was like, no, I want to be a multi-millionaire. And then I want to be a billionaire. And I want to be a multi-billionaire. I want to be a trillionaire. I want to be a whatever's after trillionaire. And it's like, I feel like no matter where I get, I'm always going to want more. So I don't know if I'll ever be able to get that true freedom. But at the same time, I feel like in the same sense that work and being able to always elevate and the possibility to always elevate is freeing to me, instead of saying that I'm capped out at becoming a billionaire, because I want to be able to push past that. And that gives me the full confidence that I'm be able to push past that. So in a sense, that's freeing to me.
No limitations. No limitations is what it sounds like in a sense. So definitely that's freedom, you know, that's freedom of thought, you know, and the idea that like where we are, we've been granted like a specific like status to kind of like build to that like future that we desire. In a sense, no matter what financial status or whatever, like, you know, outcome that you have, or like however much, you know, money you're making, whatever you're doing, in a sense, because you already know the money will come with whatever you're doing. But like, yet again, if you're able to tie back everything that you want to do, you already know you'll be making exactly what you want to do, making the change while making the money. I feel like that's the biggest thing. We tend to escape that, but at the same time, I feel like anybody that kind of has a desire to make money, you know, sometimes you do see in the beginning change behind it. Look at the world's biggest billionaires. Look at how they've changed the world by simply just, I guess, coming with new technologies. You got Tesla, you got Amazon, you got all the amazing startups that are coming, that are catering to people in a sense. So we'll see.
I'm ready to see what happens. I'm ready to see what happens with everybody in the next like 5-10 years. Like, where are we about to be?
Definitely.
It's about to be. It's gonna be crazy, but I'm looking forward to it because infinite possibilities. Infinite possibilities. Yeah. How do you feel like society is kind of being limited by the norms and what everybody is trying to say? Oh, you have to do this. You have to stick in this role. You're what's your major?
My major is sustainable agriculture.
Because I was about to say animal science with the concentration in. But so that's your major. I'm majoring in animal science. Those are labels that we kind of self-impose on ourselves, and whether we wanted to specifically, or that was our goal or not. But why do you feel like people feel constrained by those labels and not being able to do something outside of their major, if that makes sense?
Okay, that makes sense. And I feel like those titles, in a sense, they kind of help us like guide and like organize. In a sense, because society is so organized, we just kind of need that order. Because that's, I mean, technically, even in a sense, that's how our brains, I guess, function in a sense through organization in a sense. So it's like, hey, we got this title. Look, this is what you can do within your title. This is how you can apply yourself. But I feel like reaching outside of that title is how you can kind of like break that kind of like thing that kind of exists within society. You have to be able to, hey, I know I can apply my major to this, that, and also this as well. Like, I remember I was talking to somebody that said their I guess undergrad was economics in a sense, and they never saw that tying into soil, because at the same time I related back to like soil was like an economic resource, because if your soil is poor, unfortunately your people are poor as well, because yet again you can't produce agriculture, then nobody can live here. And seeing that soil as an economic resource is like, whoa, now I can apply sustainable agriculture to like a million different things. And it's gonna go as far as space. I can go to Mars if I want to. You feel me? Like that's how I feel. And you just kind of see so many things like going on with that today, and it's like, that is amazing. I never knew like there's people growing algae, like literally growing seaweed under the ocean floor, just doing so many cool things. And I'm like, wow, I can just see myself applying myself in so many different ways. But granted that title is there, but it does not necessarily limit me. Like, I'm only going to work within this, thing, this realm that exists. Yeah. So, yet again, that I feel like that goes back into tying that one thing and letting that one thing become everything else. In a sense, but I feel like our minds can kind of just become so organized on this title. Hey, I can only do everything that relates to, sustainable agriculture. I can do everything that relates to animal science. I got to go be a vet. Then after I be a vet, I'm just going to work with animals for the rest of my life. Because it's simpler that way to have that title there, especially when you're applying for jobs, applying for a resume, you know what's going to stick. Until you go outside your way, like, yo, I'm going to apply for this too. And maybe tell them how, like, I can apply agriculture to this. I did the same thing when I was applying for this real estate internship. I'm not sure if you ever heard. It's called Project Destined. In a sense. And so I applied that, and I was a sustainable agriculture major, but I always talked about how, like, sustainable policy, sustainable land development can tie into, like, the economic development of any area, and I also apply that back into the banking system, because I feel like banks and businesses can go hand in hand with the community that they support. So it's yet again, it's all cool, but I see that title. Like, it's just a title, but at the same time, it's still just such, like, it's an organizational tool for us, and you have to be able to escape that mindset of just, hey, this is just a title.
Yeah. And I hope everybody gets out of that. Like, just because, of course, I feel like, as you were saying, the society that we're in is built off of organization. People need organization.
Yeah, definitely.
So I appreciate it, but I don't want it to be limiting to people. And I feel like with COVID and everything, and the whole great resignation that's happening, and everybody's doesn't want to go back to work, and they want to be able to have more family time. They're realizing that they can work from home instead of going to the office every day, and that gives them more time with their kids. That gives them more time with their spouse. That gives them more time to be able to do what they want. They can pick up a side hobby. They can start up a small business. But being able to do those things, I feel like people now are realizing that that's an option, and I feel a shift, at least coming a little bit, away from just being able to specifically do one thing or whatever you're
definitely.
Like,
but COVID, so you're saying, like, in a sense, COVID allowed people to take their time back, and that is kind of like reconsidering how they can apply themselves to things that actually matter, because we deal with, like, tremendous amounts of death so quickly in a matter of, like, 2.5 years. And it's like, whoa, like, let me reconsider all of my priorities, because a career won't matter if a pandemic can come out and, like, wipe out your whole industry. In a sense. And so that's how, that's how I feel. There's an ensuing climate crisis, and I was reading a report by the UN the other day. We passed the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold for, like, hey, like, this is it, y'all. Our climate change future is happening now, and we gotta be able to come up with solutions that will, like, at least hinder the disaster that's gonna happen. Unfortunately, it's already ensuing. So I guess adjusting yourself for that, and I feel like applying those technical skills should be something that everybody should kind of, like, reach out and learn. And, like, this is the time to take that family time, because 50, 60 years from now, we're not necessarily sure what will happen with the ensuing climate crisis. We don't know.
About to look like.
We don't know. And so, yet again, I think COVID was, like, could have been a big learning curve for everybody, especially the youth. I feel like it completely kind of reformed our mindsets in the sense that I talk to everybody, hey, what do you want to do with that? And somehow it always applies back to, like, their life, and, like, oh, wow, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And it's going to, like, make sure, like, I'm straight and my family is straight. That way we can continue to live and succeed while also being a productive member of society. Yeah. So, it's pretty cool.
That's one of the quotes that I have there. Or not even quotes, that was just a question. Imagine this is dark, but imagine you're diagnosed with a rare disease and have 1 week to live. What's really important? What would you do?
Man, I couldn't even say if I had 1 week to live. I just feel like I would have to, like, organize my family, just get everybody together, and hey, let's just go out, talk, let's go, maybe try some things I never tried, in a sense. But for me, I just kind of take pleasure in, like, if I go to, like, a native pasture land and just run around with my, like, shoes off and just be myself, completely be that wild animal that we once were, just kind of do without my shoes. And of course I still have my, clothes and thing, but, like, 1 week with a rare disease is crazy, because it does reprioritize, like, your entire life. It's like, wow, everything I've been working for my entire life no longer matters. And it's not like it didn't matter in, like, the scheme of things, but in a sense, I can't necessarily apply that because I have a week to live. In a sense, so I'll try to experience as much as I can experience, but, like, also, leave something, that may exist for, like, myself in the future. So
it's like it recalculates how you're thinking about everything. Like, what's really important? What are you doing right now is what you're doing right now. Does that really matter to you? Does it matter to the impact that you're trying to make on the world? Does it matter to the change that you're trying to make in the world? Does it make you happy? Do you feel free? Are you living fully free? And that's kind of the topic of
But I feel like, I guess, some people are, granted more freedom to live how they want.
Yeah.
And, privilege and being status. And even as an African-American male, I still have to even recognize the privilege that I've been granted just through my parents and everything, especially being in society, how, like, it is the degradation of, like, the African-Americans is, like, I've been granted things. I'm here in college, I had the things I want. So, like, when I got on this campus, I garnered, like, a greater appreciation for the things that I have and also realizing things I don't have that I necessarily did not need anymore. And so it kind of, like, even reformed my entire life because, during COVID, there was stimulus checks. There was a lot of money going on. The money was being spent, but, like, my idea was, like, well, because if this happens again, how can I make sure that I am straight?
Straightforward.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because I think, like, the American economy, I think it kind of showed itself. It showed that people need to spend money in order to make this thing go around. Because if people are not spending money, this economy will freaking collapse.
Stimulate
the economy. Yeah, we just went out. I mean, we did what we had to do with our money. We stimulated the economy in a sense, but I feel like it's about the people that kind of took that time to like realize, yo, look, there's a future that matters, but at the same time, it's like there's like a future that could be taken away from you. Yeah. And so I think that's the whole like, I guess, ideology that goes into like finance and even tying that back to financial literacy, especially with us, because we see anything can happen, especially in our own communities. In a sense, so it gets real tough. At the end of the day.
There's so much. I feel like it's such a delicate balance between what we want, what makes us happy, if we're free or not free. Just everything that we've been talking about. There's just such a delicate balance between all of it. How do you think we would be if we were born in the wild?
Oh, wow. If we were born in the wild, I mean, I guess it just depends on, like, what would, like, exist at that time if we were born in the wild. Because, like, we could go back to being, like, how we were primarily, but I feel like society would still have evolved in a sense, but it would not evolve as fast. And I think, yet again, we'd be more in touch with, like, what matters. Core family values would matter. What we're putting into our bodies would matter. And just being completely, like, in sync with the earth would definitely matter if we were still into the wild. People always talk about, like, peace and conflict that went along with, like, when we were still, uncivilized in a sense, but, like, civilization has existed for, like, a very, very long time. People were organized in a sense, but eventually people had to move because things happened and, societies have collapsed prior to the society that we have today. Society today is kind of, like, built more, like, I guess, to withstand the threats that exist in the world, in a sense, and I guess it garnered us and allowed us to grow even faster, especially since, like, the Industrial Revolution, and since we've seen, like, tremendous, like, human development over time. But I guess it's kind of, in a sense, it's hard to answer, what would be like in the wild, because truly and honestly, I guess we would not know. But at the same time, there's still people that do live in the wild. There's an island that exists where people are still completely uncivilized, untouched from society. And, like, they throw spears at people that come near the island because they perceive it as a threat. And so that's why it's so important to just leave that untouched. In a sense, but as a wild, I'm not sure, man. What about you? I mean, it's tough because, like, who really knows? Because we were wild at one point in time. Yeah. We got here.
And it's like, I have no idea. I don't know where we would be because I feel like the main thing, as you're saying, was the organization component between everything. And I don't know if we would ever not get to that point of organizations. But if it's before organization, that's a hard question. Yeah. So I feel like equivocally we're animals at that point. We don't have any, but at the same time, even animals have organizations.
Even animals they have colonies. Think about ants. They have structure, they have order. Beehives, bro. They're extremely crazy. Yeah, extremely safe, man. So it's tough, and I feel like eventually our differences kind of like became like a dividing factor in how we would like grow or how we would organize it. Because like think about, you have like Asian Americans and you have, Chinese, you got like a bunch of like crazy like people that like have like their immense civilizations. Like you can go to Shanghai and you see buildings are completely different, but hey, these are still people.
Yeah.
And since, you just travel around the world and just kind of get immersed in different cultures, and it's like, wow, people have like evolved like remarkably and like
immensely.
Yes, it's crazy.
In all totally different ways. Everybody, like, what could have been the different possibilities if the person or just like a few people didn't exist that that made the United States look the way that it is today? China look in the Chinese architecture, in culture, that could have changed because a few people didn't exist, or a few, like, what are the other possibilities that there could have been in this world? Like the entire world could look totally like completely different if just a few things had changed.
Just a few slight minor adjustments could have changed everything.
Yeah, and it's
in a sense. So
I don't know. I don't even know why I asked this question because this is making my brain go like.
yeah, it's very like it's crazy.
It's insane, but in terms of wrapping it back into if we were born in the wild, how do you feel like that dynamic between humans and animals would be? Do you feel like if we had to read the whole thing, so there's this anime, right, called Dr. Stone. This phenomenon happened. Every human got turned to stone. Whoa. And then this one dude, genius, his stone broke, but it passed like 2,000, 3,000 years. So nature pretty much took over everything, the animals flourishing, plant life flourishing, everything's flourishing. He's the first human awoken from like the stone age, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then one by one, humans start breaking out of the thing. So how do you feel like that dynamic would be if that was applied to today? We all got turned to stone right now. 2,000 years passed. How do you think that dynamic would be? How do you feel like humans would survive and be?
I feel like it also depends on like who we are, because like we saw that how society turned out in a sense, but like in our minds, like this is the society that we know. But like I feel like it's gonna take an extreme difference to be like, hey, let's do this completely differently.
Yeah.
And but like being that if you wake up 2,000 years and you see like your entire wherever you are is covered in plants and there's birds flying around you, I feel like you gotta realize we have to maintain this balance, and that's something that we forgot is like, yo, we're one of them, they're one of us. The plants are here with us as well. Like, and I think if we were to go back, that balance has to be restored in a sense, because we just come through and just degrade habitats in a sense. And it's like, well, we cannot do that. And like, I hate when I see that, they burning, scorching earth on the Amazon. Yeah. I'm like, wow. And as me singly, as myself, I can't do that. And everybody perceives that completely different. Be like, hey, we need that for farming. We have to feed the people. But like then you see like, hey, well, what about the animals and what about the trees? And then you understand how all of that goes into a balance. And like this in agriculture, there's this thing called holistic grazing. And it says we use plants, animals, and crop production to all like help maintain the land, and you're farming with nature in a sense, because I feel like this is gonna like tie into like, an animal. This ties into like cattle. Cattle get a lot of bad rep because like methane production and everything that we talk about. But yet again, they were like on land managed grazing because bison and everything roam the land. They never stayed in one pasture for too long. But yet again, our domestication of animals and not necessarily having that balance, like, hey, these animals too, they need their freedom to roam. Then we get that whole interaction where whatever they like, leave their like biomass that gets recycled back into the earth, and plants can use that to grow. And so I really think that balance, we always talk about, hey, the earth is getting overpopulated, and I don't necessarily see that true. I see like there's a lot of like resource deprivation and scarcity that goes along with that.
Very much so.
So I just feel like it's just so much getting hogged at the top. But yet again, that balance. If I was to wake up and be like, whoa, personally,
what would you do if
it was me? I would have to maintain this. You have to slowly, like, I guess you wouldn't want to wake up everybody at once, because then you go back to like what you had before. You have to be able to organize. Hey, look, this is. We got some living quarters here. We got some, this is what we're going to eat. This is our gardens and everything like that. But because now that you said that made me think. Because were we ever supposed to start eating animals?
I don't know. I've always thought of that. But then at the same time, all animals eat.
Animals do eat other animals.
Yeah, but then we have like an organized way of doing so.
So
I've always felt weird about it. But at the same time, the animals also have different strategies. They have different tactics to be able to feed themselves. So, but yeah, I think it's all about like how I would go about, doing it. And that's a really tough, because it's like, if I were to wake up, I have to be able to perceive that for myself. Yeah. It's like, whoa, because it comes scary, man. Like 2,000 years have passed, and I'm like, whoa, we know what society was like before, but I know how I am. I'm trying to get more in touch with like, what matters and stuff, and also like still knowing like, hey, we have to be able to feed ourselves too. Like, it's cool to be like, hey, I'm one with the earth and I'm like this and like that, but at the same time we have to be back to like reality in a sense. Like, yo, people still gotta wake up and eat, and never like to foster development for ourselves in a sense. But it's tough, man. I probably just look around and just admire it for a minute, like, whoa, this is just like here. I don't know, what would you say though? Like, you just wake up. So one of the things that happened in the anime, which I feel like everybody should watch, Dr. Stone.
Dr. Stone.
One of the things that he did, he woke up this one guy, wrote up the wrong person, thought a totally different way of him. And I feel like that's one of the things that I would try and not do, even though it's kind of
hard.
Because you can't know what somebody's perspective or what their thoughts and ideas of how civilization should be running the whole thing. We don't know how that should be. But as you were saying, I feel like I would try and, first off, admire it. Second off, figure out how you can get food, because I'm going to need food. But then develop a system that is sustainable for myself and everybody that I start bringing, like all the humans that I start pretty much reviving. Also the animals in the area, because I don't want to mess up that balance, and then also the plants and vegetation in the area. Because as you were saying, we as humans have to eat, the animals have to eat, plants have to do their stuff and all that photosynthesize. But at the same time, everybody has to be good, so there's a balance that we have to find. And we can't, what we've done today, I feel like is we've gone too far to one side, which is only solely benefiting humans. And I feel like we need to take a few steps back so that we're feeding back into animals need to be good. Plants and vegetation needs to be good. And we can also still be good in that same way. So I'll try and find that balance on a small scale and then try and scale it with like.
So like, could you say that society grew too fast? You know? Think about that balance was there before. So, but then it's like, hey, because there were people living there before. There was Native Americans already on the land before, living off the land. And so they had massive, civilization in a sense too, but they had tremendous, earth skills in a sense too. But then you had, the European settlers came over and kind of like, hey, we're here now. And now we're going to grow. It's just like, I just wonder if maybe we grew too fast. But I mean, there's no taking it back now. We're here. And I think it's about like the future now. Like we're at this point right here, and I feel like it's like extremely important. Like we have a chance to like decide our future. Something that we haven't had a chance to do before, being that we didn't necessarily see the consequences of our action, but we've been through almost every aspect of human society now. It's like, what's next? Let's sit here and like truly decide what's next. But that goes back to each country's policymakers in a sense, because we're so eagerly pointing our like weapons at each other. And it's just like we're like, hey, I'm gonna build my country. I want to be the best, man. It's like it's collaboration, but even with those small scale countries, and it's like I hate to see it, I hate to see it, but unfortunately, that's how we are living right now. So I feel like within your community, you kind of like have to like institute that on a small scale, and just hope that it gets picked up on a large scale, like you're saying with your businesses and stuff. Try to be like that philanthropist that kind of like, hey, this is our message, this is what we're promoting, this is what our change is, this is what we want, this is what our future. Getting other people to buy into that future in a sense. So I like what we're geared to as young people. I see a lot more people talk about that, and that may just be like the couple of outliers in a sense, but it does not take everybody to change the world.
And with your question, I feel like we may have grown too fast, but at the same time, I feel like everything that we have today, if we paused everything, we could put everything in place to make it so that we are better off in the future. Like I feel like we could eliminate the threat of climate change over time if we could pause every country, every business, everything going on, and implement different things, put everything on renewable energy, which we have the technology for. Food waste, eliminating all food waste, being able to redistribute that food to people that are food insecure, being able to redo some infrastructure. I feel like we could do so much. Even though, of course, it would take time because you can't literally just pause time and stop everything. But if everybody worked together, collaborated, and did all that, I feel like if we did it in the right way, we could be good. But we haven't done it right.
We do see a slight shift, though. You see more sustainable policies being instituted, but this time the people are taking a stand against the governments, and eventually.
So now the governments are going to have to, they have to get on board with it, and then businesses have to get on board with it, and they can't just keep on pushing it.
They can't keep pushing it down the road. I mean, they've done it for too long, and it's like, hey, we got people with a bunch of money, but it's like, yo, what is this money going to mean in the future? And it's like you can't necessarily step out your home and go to the beach or. But I feel like because people don't necessarily see it at their front doors just yet. But like think about third world countries in a sense, well, yeah, if we think about third world countries and see how like they're already having to deal with third world change, like there's countries in the middle of the ocean whose like tide is completely like wide. Yeah, man, it's like this is it's crazy because we're seeing them being affected first, and it's not gonna hit the developed nations or in turn have they calling themselves, you know, China. Even though China had actually seen it too, you know, yet again in their cities, smog and you know a bunch of other stuff. In the U.S., because we've all seen it. We've all seen it.
Yes, and the wildfires, we be having wildfires like 24/7, and it's to me it's insane. But
droughts in the West, man, like it's ridiculous, dog.
And that's on like the thing that you were saying about
yeah, go ahead, Kimmy. We've all seen it though. You know, even you go to like Russia or Kazakhstan, they're dealing with like sinkholes that's happening because the ground is warming up. You know, methane is first called an explosion on the ground. And that's why I even wonder, like, with war is very terrible for the environment. It's bad.
I don't even know
it's
what.
It's crazy, dog. It's
lots and lots of chemicals being exposed. Yeah. The chemical warfare. Everything that's bad. People get displaced. Agriculture gets attacked. Everything is just thrown out of whack. And the thing that I was about to say was how you're talking about traveling. And being able to be exposed to those different areas that aren't just like what you live, because you may not be exposed to everything in your little microcosm of where you grew up or where you're living today. But if you're able to travel to these different places, you get different perspectives from around the world that are affected by different problems. In Virginia, I don't know if you have a drought problem, but in Nevada, there's a drought problem. In California, there were wildfires this past summer. So in those different places, you see different problems. But if you're traveling, you're being able to get exposed to those different things. Whether it's you're looking at just your state, counties, the countries, the world. Just be able to travel, get exposed to different things, and not be ethnocentric in your way of thinking. You got to be able to look at things from other people's perspectives and also take other people's perspectives into account in decisions that are made, which I feel like isn't being done.
And do you see how that ties that into like even being mindful of like the animals in a sense, and how that even though we all have our differences, that balance still has to be there. And so even when you're talking about, you know, necessarily who you woke up and he woke up the wrong one, yet again, this person may have completely different, but y'all have to figure out how we're going to decide this balance. And you know, oftentimes we refer to like violence because violence is like the easiest things for humans to do. You know, but like that can't work anymore. That can't be the only tool, the only method of collaboration, because we've seen peace and we've seen conflict, and we see what it does to people. We see what it yet again talk about like how it displays people, how it does to agriculture, terrible for the environment. It's like you have to find other solutions, and you know, yet again, exposure kind of grants you that in a sense, but that's how like racism has worked against us in a very bad way, because being that everybody has been hunkered down and not being able to experience different things, like our mindsets are not shifted at all. And in the same sense, we kind of all want the same thing. We all want the same thing. And I noticed that even talking to I talk to trust boys, we all want the same thing, but we've been kind of like deceived into thinking that, hey, we're against each other. No, we're not. We're each other's main collaborators, man.
So if everybody worked together, I feel like it would just be straight. I feel like everybody wants to eat, and they think, or not everybody, but the way society is right now, from my perspective,
definitely,
I feel like everybody, or not everybody, as I just said, but a lot of people want to eat and be the best, but to get to that route, they're okay with kicking down other people and knocking other people off their path, not recognizing that they can be on their path and go to the limits of that, or pretty much like do anything, be the best with it. They can be happy, they can be free, they can do whatever they want to, they can change the world. But then everybody else can also do that same thing. Everybody can eat. But there's enough out there for everybody.
Taught so much about like competition, and competition exists in nature in a sense, and I really feel like yet again that has worked against us, because we all do want similar aspect of things. You know, we all want to, like you said, eat. We want to take care of our family. We want to be able to do the things that matter to us, but we can't. We feel like we can't do that when we live in a society that hey, you're competing with everybody. Remember, you was in elementary talking about look around you. These are the people that you're competing with for scholarships. Like you can't. That's a terrible mindset to put a young person in, because it automatically teaches them like, hey, this is mine at a very young age. Very young age, man, and I understand that. And then come here, you know, they teach us about like collaboration, and this is because it's gonna take everybody. I mean, it takes the small, you know, group of like either philanthropists, people that like kind of change the world, but it'll take everyone to be like, hey, let's move this forward in a sense. Yes, you have corporations and everything that's like in charge of like, how society can move forward, how fast it can move forward. Simply because they invented new technologies that get adapted by the people, But it's really interesting to see how like competition, even like, even in capitalist society, we breed on competition because like, businesses are always competing with somebody because we have the idea of choice. In a sense,
I always have like a weird relationship with competition because I see everything as a competition, but I also don't. I want to be the best.
Yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, I also think that everybody else can be the best. So at the same time, I'm competing with people. But at the same time, I'm not about to knock somebody down. I'd rather help you and then try and catch back up to you, and then just pretty much like feed off of that competition. But when it gets toxic, I feel like there's a problem.
And making sure that you're not putting yourself on like too high of a pedestal. Because as soon as you do that, you're displacing the very people that you need to kind of like help move your ideas forward. Because like you as one man can do so much, but at the same time, there's so much that you need other people to help you do. Even talking about a business, people have to run your business. You need other people to go out and explain like, hey, this is come check out this idea. In a sense, it's like as an African American, I feel like sometimes we can tend to do that. Even we see each other as competition in a sense. Like, sure, we may be competing for like jobs and everything with each other, but like we can't like use competition as an idea to like tear somebody else completely down. So
it has to be used as a good thing and not as a toxic.
Because competition can breed amazing ideas. You'd be like, you lost this, but now, hey, now I'm gonna come back even stronger. Because now you got really two good candidates. That even if this person is not necessarily in first place, you already know they're gonna still do amazing things. So.
And that's the thing about innovation. I feel like at the same time, that's what's pushed us to where we are at this point. Because if we didn't have the amount of competition that we had or that we have today, a lot of the stuff that we know today and the high level of technology, the innovation rate, all that would not be the same. But at the same time, would we be better off? And the thing that you were talking about with the kids and how from literally elementary school, look to your left, look to your right, because I saw the exact same thing. We're not from the same place. So are we, tying back into the conversation,
for sure, have
we ever really been free at any point?
Society has been constructed in a sense where like it allows you a room, a level of freedom to kind of be able to like do what you want to do, but at the same time, like you can't stray too far away because each time society brings you back, like, hey, like this is what you gotta do. This is what matters every day, And okay, just consider this is a potential, ideology. Is like we're free in a sense, but because every day as animals they have to eat every day, and we're very displaced from our food. And so I feel like that's how society kind of levels you back into the mix because like unless you own your own farm, hey, you get to wake up and do what you want because you control for your food in a sense. But yet again, hey, you got to still pay taxes, you still got to pay bills in a sense. So I feel like as soon as you start acquiring more stuff, acquiring things too fast, you kind of like your freedom becomes restricted because hey, look, this is what you got to do. This is what matters. You got to wake up, hey, man, you got to make sure this is everything here is provided for. And so like I said, I feel like we still are free, but society, there are factors that kind of control us to kind of like, hey, do what you want to do, but like, hey, this is how you have to do it. This is how you have to go about.
They're always coercion.
It's always coercion.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy to think about because we can see ourselves as free, but at the end of the day,
it's how you define free.
Would you rather be an animal?
Personally, no. I mean, I like being a human. Being human's pretty cool, man. Being human's pretty cool.
No, facts. I agree. I feel like animals, they're free, but at the same time, they got to fight for their life every day.
Fight for their life every day. We don't have to necessarily do that. We don't have to necessarily wake up and like, this is a competition. I'm trying to get killed today because nature can get real scary.
Yeah.
Get real scary. We've seen them like, the Discovery Channel.
Or the documentaries.
Cheetahs this gets real scary, man. Hey, if you go to the cafeteria, our food is already prepared for you. Just pick up and eat,
And that comes with that exchange. Yeah. So every podcast episode, I end off with 2 questions.
What's up?
So first question. What are 3 things that you live by or your 3 keys to life?
Whoa.
Everybody says it.
Because I feel like we all kind of like, well, I guess in a sense, like, I don't write them down. Or I write them down, but I guess if you're not necessarily remembering in your head, you're not necessarily living by them in a sense. So yet again, going back to being my true self, and I try not to, minimize harm that you can do, whether or not it's being mindful of your actions, how you speak to people, how you go about doing things, in a sense, being mindful of who you are, treating others, of course, with respect, and like being yourself, at the end of the day. I feel like being yourself is like one of the most important things. Just kind of appreciation for everything. Appreciate where you are. Appreciate where you're going. Appreciate where you came from. Appreciate the people that put you to where you are. Your parents, everybody. So I definitely try to live by like appreciation. That's something I'm still even coming in more into because, like, yet again, the keys of life and things that like manage you change every day. So but there are like guiding morals and guiding lights that kind of exist within that. What was the second question?
So second question. This one's even worse. But if you could have a conversation with a 12-year-old you, so just about to go to high school, what would it be about, and what advice would you give, and why?
I tell them it gets better, man. My youth was tough for me to kind of like go through. What was it, 12? What were we going to? Is that middle school or that?
I think like late middle school.
High school. Yeah, man. My childhood was definitely. It was different, but I think at the same time, I feel like I had hands off. I would really, because it made me who I am today. So it's like, if I give myself a hands off approach, or if I even give him a little word of advice, hey, maybe he'll develop an ego sooner. Yeah. You didn't want that. I don't want that for myself, because I feel like I became who I became, over time. Because 12-year-old me, I was in the science club, man. I was, that nerdy kid in a sense, but it all made me who I am today. So I wouldn't do anything to him, actually. I wouldn't tell him anything.
So, because I say, that was pretty much my same exact answer. But one of the things I always think about now, because I've asked that question so many times and just hearing other people's answers and everything. And then some people would have a conversation, they give advice. Some people wouldn't have a conversation because they don't want to change who they are today and all that. But the thing that I would want to do is be able to have a conversation about what I want to do, my mindset then, so I can have that perspective. Mm-hmm. So instead of like, I don't know, I feel like it just puts stuff in perspective, being able to see where you were at one point, then like right now. So like little things that I do, like when I wrote my book, I wrote a little note in my book when I published my book, and like every time I look in my book, then it's weird because like it's me from a long time ago, but writing to a message to myself in the future, and it's crazy because you could write something now and then like talking to yourself in the future. I don't know, it's weird.
We'll see, like even like now this podcast, seeing how we're reflecting on it in maybe a year, be like, well, what was I talking about?
It's crazy.
That's definitely it, man. What you asked me a question.
Yeah.
What about like, I want to hear your, I guess, opinion on like what are the things you live by?
So number one, absolutely everything is possible. Sure. Nothing is impossible. Whether it's you want to become the president of the United States, I feel like you can become the president of the United States. You want to become the president of the United States? I want to be president of the United States. You feel me? You can become president of the United States. It's like it's like anything that you want to do, I feel like you can do it. So go for it and pursue your dreams, because I feel like that's what makes people truly happy. Also, being yourself, finding happiness, I feel like that is another big thing. If you're pursuing dreams and you're being authentically yourself, I don't think that you really have anything to be upset about, because you're gonna be doing what you want to do, being you. So I feel like that helps me a lot. And then third, always take into account other people's perspectives, other people's needs, wants, and just saying that in conversations with people, things that you want to do, changes that you want to make in the world, don't be selfish. Like, you should always be able to think of what you do, how it's impacting other people, whether good or bad, and that can come on big scale or small scale.
I'm glad you said that. We can either say this. I just want to, I guess, end it like exactly you saying that. What if your true authentic self harms other people? In a sense, but you're still being your authentic self. But sometimes you being your authentic self brings harm to other people. It's pretty tough. Again, we can. I know that's a whole nother topic. We can say that though. We can definitely come back to that.
Now let me see.
Think about Donald Trump. He's being his authentic self. There are people in the world who are authentic self brings harm to other people. So.
That is facts. At the same time, I don't know.
Yes.
It's crazy because to me, on most subjects, I feel like everybody, if we took a survey of everybody in the world, in my mind, I feel like everybody be on one half, everybody be on the other half. So, but depending on where you live, maybe more people are. Yeah, so maybe it's harming people that are around him, but then somewhere else, like if you took a survey of the whole world, everything would end up being 50-50.
Yeah.
At least most topics, I think, and opinions. But that is crazy. As long as it's not like morally and ethically, but then that's also based off of society.
Yeah.
So then,
about what we think is harm. You know, like it's.
But a lot of people, like, no names, but a lot of people that we think are crazy or say crazy stuff, do crazy things, are in crazy positions. It's like they had the people supporting them to be able to get to where they are. So at the same time, to them, it's not harming them, but it's harming us. A lot of stuff.
Yeah, it can keep going, you know, because I got another question going on with that. But hey, man, you know, talk about that later for sure. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for joining.
Nah, thanks for having me, man. Seriously, it's been great.
Oh, for sure. We can definitely have you on for another episode too.
Cool. Glad to hear that.
But thank you so much for joining me on this podcast episode and sharing your time and deep knowledge with me as well. Also being an amazing mentee and wanting to do everything that you want to do. Shout out to you. You can be able to do whatever you want to. Whatever you want to do, everything is possible. Anything you would like to promote, shameless plugs, things you have going on that you like to say something about, or last words that you would like to leave the audience with?
No, not right now. Say that for next time.
I got you. But thank you so much again. Be on the lookout for more episodes, and also stay tuned for all the special guests that I will have on in the future. I will continue to have amazing conversations with incredibly dope people that I've met throughout my many adventures throughout life. Also, follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Through Jeremiah's Eyes for updates and more content. And it would also be amazing if you also like, share, and subscribe to my podcast so that you don't miss a single episode and we continue to grow this amazing community. Thank you so much for your time, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode for another look through my eyes. See you soon.